The call came on a Tuesday. Victor walked through the door at 6:47 p.m., holding his phone like it was made of glass. His face had that careful blankness I'd learned to read over 8 years of marriage, the expression he wore when something significant had happened and he was still deciding how to frame it. "They offered me director of operations," he said. I was standing at the stove, stirring pasta sauce that had been simmering for 20 minutes. Miles was in the living room, building something complicated with blocks, narrating the construction process to himself in the serious tone he used when he was concentrating. "That's incredible," I said. I turned the heat down and crossed the kitchen to hug him. "Victor, that's what you've been working toward for 3 years. He hugged me back, but there was something tight in his shoulders. Something held. "It means longer hours," he said. "More responsibility. More visibility. You can handle that. There's a lot of politics. This level, Laurel. A lot of navigation." I pulled back to look at his face. "You've always been good at that." "Yeah." He smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. "Yeah, I have been." That was the moment. I didn't know it then, but that was when everything started to tilt. When the angle of our lives shifted just slightly off center, enough that everything that came after would slide in a direction I couldn't have predicted. "We should celebrate," I said. "Let me call your mother. She'll want to hear." Something crossed his face. Too quick to name. "I already told her. She's thrilled." Of course he'd called Joe Costa first. He always did. That was normal. Expected. His mother had raised him alone after his father died when Victor was 12. They were close in a way I'd always understood was non-negotiable. The kind of closeness that predated me and would outlast anything temporary. I was supposed to find that admirable. "Then let's just have a nice dinner," I said. "The 3 of us. To market." "Sure," Victor said. But he was already looking at his phone again, scrolling through something with that distant expression that meant he was only half present. "That sounds good." Miles came running into the kitchen, his small hands covered in the marker he'd been using to draw on his blocks against explicit instructions not to. He grabbed Victor's leg, looking up with that blazing smile that made him look exactly like his father. "Daddy, I made a tower!" Victor ruffled his hair automatically, still looking at his phone. "That's great, buddy! Come see! It's taller than yesterday!" In a minute, Victor's thumb kept moving across the screen. "Daddy needs to check something." Miles's face fell in that particular way children's faces fall when they've learned that, in a minute, usually means not at all. He looked at me instead. "Mommy, come see." "Let me just finish dinner," I said. "Then I'll come look at every single block." He ran back to the living room, his disappointment already converted into forward motion. Children are good at that. They haven't learned yet that some disappointments are meant to be examined, turned over, understood as information rather than temporary setbacks. I finished making dinner while Victor stood in the kitchen scrolling through his phone. I set the table. I called Miles to wash his hands. I served pasta and salad and the garlic bread Miles liked, even though it made him smell like a tiny Italian restaurant. Victor ate with one hand, texting with the other. "Is it work?" I asked. "Yeah, just some logistics for the transition. Nothing urgent." But he kept texting through dinner. Through Miles' elaborate story about a conflict in his kindergarten class involving sharing the good scissors. Through my attempt to talk about whether we should finally replace the dishwasher that had been making ominous grinding sounds for 3 months. His attention was somewhere else entirely. This continued. For weeks. The promotion was official the following Monday. Victor's title changed. His salary increased by 32%. We didn't discuss what to do with the extra money because Victor started working until 8, then 9, then 10 p.m. He'd come home distracted, eat whatever I'd left for him in the fridge, and disappear into his home office to catch up on things. On weekends, he was physically present but mentally absent. He'd sit on the couch with Miles, ostensibly watching cartoons, but his eyes would drift to his phone every few minutes. He'd promised to take Miles to the park, then get a call that required him to just handle this one thing, which would expand to consume 3 hours while Miles and I went to the park alone. Joe Costa called every few days to ask how Victor was adjusting, not how we were adjusting, how Victor was. "This is such an important time for him," she said during one call. "He needs support right now, understanding." "I'm being understanding," I said. "Good, because men at this level, they have pressures we can't fully grasp. The politics, the relationships. It's a different world." "I understand that. Do you?" She said it gently, but there was something underneath. Something that suggested my understanding might be theoretical rather than practical. "Because I know how you are, Laurel. You have expectations. You like things a certain way. But Victor needs flexibility right now. He needs to know you're behind him no matter what." "I am behind him." "Then show him that. Don't make demands. Don't create additional stress." I wanted to ask what demands she thought I was making. I cooked dinner every night, even though Victor rarely ate it fresh. I handled everything with Miles: homework, bedtime, the constant negotiations around screen time and vegetables. I kept the house running, managed our finances, scheduled our lives around Victor's expanding absence. What exactly was I demanding? But I didn't. "Ask." I said, "Of course. I want him to succeed." "I know you do, sweetheart. I just want to make sure you're approaching this the right way." The right way. As if there was a correct method for managing the slow disappearance of your husband, and I simply hadn't learned it yet. Victor started traveling more, overnight trips to meet with regional teams, multi-day conferences that seemed to occur with increasing frequency. He'd come home from these trips energized in a way I hadn't seen in months, talking rapidly about connections he'd made, opportunities he'd identified, people who really understood the vision. I asked about these people. He gave vague answers. Colleagues, industry contacts, I didn't know, but I smiled and nodded because that seemed to be what was required. Then his phone habits changed. Victor had never been precious about his phone. It usually sat on the kitchen counter, unlocked, accessible. I'd sometimes use it if mine was charging upstairs and I needed to check something quickly. This was normal, unremarkable. Suddenly, the phone was locked, constantly locked, and always in his pocket or his hand. "Did you change your passcode?" I asked one morning when I wanted to look up a recipe while my hands were covered in bread dough. "Yeah," he said, not looking up from his laptop. "Work security protocols, new requirements for director-level positions. Can you unlock it for me? I just need to search for—" "Use your own phone. It's upstairs." He sighed, the put-upon sound of someone being asked to do something unreasonable. But he unlocked his phone and handed it to me, watching while I navigated to the browser and searched for the recipe. Then he took it back immediately and returned it to his pocket. The next time I needed his phone, he said mine was closer. The time after that, he was in the middle of something and couldn't unlock it right now. After that, I stopped asking. Late-night phone calls started. He'd step out of the bedroom to take them, murmuring in the hallway in tones too low for me to distinguish words. When I asked who was calling so late, he said, "Just work stuff, time zones, West Coast teams." But the calls happened at 11 p.m., midnight, 1 in the morning. Even accounting for time zones, something felt off. "Is everything okay?" I asked one night after he returned from the hallway and slid back into bed beside me. "You seem stressed." "I'm fine." "You've been on your phone constantly." "That's the job, Laurel. This is what director level looks like." "I know, but what? You want me to turn down work calls? Ignore my responsibilities?" "No, I just want to make sure you're okay. That we're okay." He turned toward me in the dark, and I could just barely make out his expression. "We're fine. You're overthinking things." Was I? Maybe I was. Maybe this was simply what it looked like when someone moved up in their career. Maybe I was being clingy, demanding, creating problems where none existed. This is what Jocasta had warned me about, wasn't it? Creating additional stress, making demands. "Okay," I said, "I just miss you." "I'm right here." But he wasn't. Not really. Proximity isn't presence. I was learning that. The fighting started small. I'd ask about his day, and he'd give one-word answers. I'd suggest we needed to talk about Miles' school options for next year, and he'd say, "Can we do this later?" Later never came. I'd mention that I missed spending time together, and he'd say, "I'm working. What do you want me to do about that?" What did I want him to do? I wanted him to care that I missed him. I wanted him to make space in his expanding world for the life we'd built together. I wanted him to look at me the way he looked at his phone, like something important was contained there, something worth attention. But I couldn't say that. It sounded needy, unreasonable, exactly the kind of additional stress I was supposed to avoid creating. So I said nothing, and the distance grew. Miles started asking why Daddy was always busy, why Daddy didn't play anymore, why Daddy got mad when Miles asked questions. Daddy's working very hard, I explained. He has an important new job. Is it more important than me? How do you answer that? How do you explain to a 5-year-old that importance isn't always a hierarchy, that adults can care about multiple things simultaneously, that absence doesn't equal indifference? You can't. So you say, "Of course not, sweetie. Daddy loves you very much." And you hope that's still true. Jo Costa started coming over more often, usually when Victor was at work. She'd let herself in with the spare key we'd given her for emergencies and settle into the kitchen like she was conducting an inspection. "You look tired," she'd say. "Are you taking care of yourself?" "I'm fine." "You need to keep yourself up, Laurel. Victor is meeting important people now, professional people. You represent him." I looked down at my jeans and sweater. "I'm dressed." "I'm just saying, first impressions matter. You never know who might stop by." Who was going to stop by? We lived in a neighborhood where everyone worked during the day. Our social life had contracted to almost nothing since Victor's promotion. The only person who stopped by was Jo Costa. She'd walk through the house, noting things. The toys not put away, the dishes in the sink from lunch, the laundry basket I hadn't gotten to yet because I'd spent the morning dealing with a leak under the bathroom sink and the afternoon at Miles's parent-teacher conference that Victor had forgotten about. "You should hire help," she said. "Victor can afford it now." "I don't need help." "Clearly you do. This is a lot for one person to manage." "I'm managing fine." "Are you?" She looked around the kitchen with an expression that suggested she was documenting evidence to the contrary. "Because it doesn't look fine, sweetheart. It looks like you're overwhelmed." I wasn't overwhelmed. I was tired. There's a difference. But arguing seemed pointless, so I just offered her coffee and waited for her to leave. These visits always ended the same way, with her patting my hand and saying, "I just want what's best for Victor. And for you, of course. I know this transition is hard, but it'll get easier once you adjust to the new normal." The new normal, as if normal was something that could be redefined unilaterally, as if I'd agreed to these terms. 3 months after the promotion, Victor started staying out late in ways that couldn't be explained by work hours. He'd text at 8 p.m. saying he was grabbing dinner with colleagues and come home at midnight smelling like wine and expensive restaurant food. "How was dinner?" I'd ask. "Fine, productive." "Who was there?" "People from the regional office. You don't know them." "What did you talk about?" "Work stuff, strategy. You wouldn't be interested." This became a pattern. Dinners with colleagues, drinks with the team, networking events that ran late. Always vague. Always dismissive of my questions. Always framed as obligations rather than choices. I started tracking his location through the app we'd set up years ago for practical reasons, so I could see when he was close to home and time dinner accordingly. The app showed him at restaurants I'd never heard of, in parts of the city we never went to together. Once I asked about a place I'd seen on his location history. "How was that Italian place downtown?" His face went careful. "What Italian place?" "The one you were at last week, for the team dinner." "Oh, that. It was fine, nothing special. We should go sometime, it looked nice." "It's not really our kind of place." What did that mean? What was our kind of place? We used to try new restaurants together. We used to have kinds of places. Now we had his places and my places, and they didn't overlap. I mentioned this to Jo Costa during one of her visits. I shouldn't have. I knew better. But I was tired and confused and needed someone to tell me I wasn't crazy for feeling like my marriage was dissolving in front of me. "Men need space to decompress," she said, especially at Victor's level. He's dealing with things you can't understand. The last thing he needs is someone interrogating him about every dinner meeting. "I'm not interrogating." You're tracking his location. That's not healthy, Laurel. We've both always shared our locations, for practical reasons. And now you're using it to check up on him, to question his choices. Can't you see how that would make him feel controlled? I felt something hot and sharp in my chest. I'm not trying to control him. I'm trying to understand where my husband is. He's working, building a career, providing for his family. Isn't that enough? Was it? Should it be enough to know someone was working while having no idea who they were anymore, what they cared about, where they actually were? I didn't know. Every time I tried to establish what was reasonable to expect, the ground shifted. What had been normal became intrusive. What had been care became control. What had been partnership became burden. Jocasta leaned forward, her voice going soft. I know this is difficult, but you have to trust him. You have to let him do what he needs to do without making him feel guilty about it. I don't want him to feel guilty. Then stop asking so many questions. Stop tracking him. Give him the freedom to navigate this new phase without feeling like he has to report every movement to you. I nodded because that seemed easier than continuing a conversation where every boundary I tried to establish was reframed as a failing on my part. After she left, I sat in the kitchen for a long time, staring at my phone. The location sharing app was open. Victor was at a coffee shop across town at 2:30 in the afternoon. Nowhere, near his office. I closed the app. I didn't ask about it when he came home. I was learning. The message appeared on a Thursday evening in late November. I'd borrowed Victor's laptop to check my email because Miles had spilled juice on mine and it was drying out in a bowl of rice. Victor was in the shower. His laptop was open on the bed, unlocked, showing some kind of spreadsheet I didn't look at. I clicked over to the browser to open my email. His messages were synced across devices, and a notification popped up in the corner of the screen. Renata. Can't wait for tomorrow night. I'll text you when I get to the hotel. The message preview disappeared after 3 seconds, but 3 seconds was enough. I sat very still, holding the laptop, staring at the space where the notification had been. Renata, tomorrow night, hotel, heart emoji. The shower was still running. I could hear Victor humming something tuneless, the sound muffled by water and distance. My hands were shaking. I clicked on the Messages app, but it required his password to open. The preview had been visible because of notification settings, but the full conversation was locked. I could hear the shower turning off. I closed the browser, reopened my email, and started scrolling through unread messages with eyes that weren't registering any words. Victor came out of the bathroom wrapped in a towel, water still dripping from his hair. Done with the laptop? He asked. Almost. My voice sounded normal. How is my voice normal? Just checking something. He got dressed, his back to me, while I stared at my email inbox and saw nothing but those words. Can't wait for tomorrow night. Heart emoji. Hotel. What are you doing tomorrow night? I asked. Casual, just making conversation. Dinner with some potential clients, should run late. How late? Not sure. Might just stay at a hotel downtown instead of driving back late. Oh, I closed the laptop and handed it to him. That makes sense. He took it, checked something on the screen, and set it aside. You okay? You seem quiet. Just tired. You should go to bed earlier. Yeah, maybe. He kissed my forehead, a gesture that felt like habit rather than affection, and said, I'm going to finish up some work. Don't wait up. I didn't wait up. I lay in the dark, trying to build alternative explanations for what I'd seen. Renata could be a colleague. The hotel could be for the client dinner. The heart emoji could be... What? Autocorrect? Ironic? Friendly? None of these explanations felt true. But I didn't have proof. I had a 3-second notification preview and a growing certainty that something was very wrong. The next day, Friday, Victor left for work at his usual time. He kissed Miles goodbye, told me he'd text later, and walked out the door, carrying his work bag and an overnight bag he'd packed that morning. Business trip, he'd said when I looked at the bag. Told you about the clients? Dinner. I hadn't slept. My mind had spent 8 hours constructing scenarios, building cases, tearing them down, rebuilding them. By morning, I was hollow with exhaustion and certainty. I waited until Miles was at kindergarten. Then I did something I'd never done before. I opened the app that tracked Victor's location. He was at the office. This was normal, expected. I checked again at 11, still the office. At 12:30, his location changed. He was moving across the city, away from any client meeting locations he'd mentioned before, toward the waterfront district where expensive hotels clustered along the harbor. I watched the blue dot that represented my husband move through the city grid and stop at the Ashcroft Harbor Hotel. My hands went cold. I opened a new browser window and searched for the hotel. It was the kind of place people went for romantic getaways, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the water and a rooftop bar that advertised sunset cocktails. An intimate atmosphere, not the kind of place people went for client dinners. I checked the location again at 2 p.m., still at the hotel. At 4 p.m., still there. At 6 p.m., I put Miles to bed early, telling him Daddy was working late, and sat on the couch staring at my phone. The blue dot didn't move. At 8 p.m., Victor texted, "Dinner running late, definitely staying over. See you tomorrow." I stared at the message for 5 minutes before responding. Okay, what else was there to say? I didn't have proof. I had a notification preview and a location pin, and the slow accumulating weight of months of distance and lies and vague answers to direct questions. That night, I didn't sleep at all. I lay in bed, alone, listening to the house settle, and felt something inside me begin to shift. Not breaking, not yet, but cracking. Starting to separate into pieces that might not fit back together the same way. Victor came home Saturday afternoon. He looked rested, happy even. He brought Miles a small toy from the hotel gift shop and made elaborate pasta carbonara for dinner, while telling a long story about the client meeting that had supposedly justified the overnight stay. I listened. I smiled. I asked appropriate follow-up questions. And I watched him lie to my face with the kind of ease that suggested extensive practice. Sunday morning, while Victor was in the shower and Miles was watching cartoons, I searched through Victor's work bag. I don't know what I expected to find. A receipt, maybe. A note. Some kind of evidence that would either confirm or deny what I suspected. What I found was a business card. Thick, expensive cardstock, embossed lettering. Renata Kensington, Executive Strategic Consultant. There was a phone number, an email address, no company name. I turned the card over. On the back, in handwriting I didn't recognize. This could change everything. Trust me. I photographed the card, front and back, then returned it to exactly where I'd found it. Then I searched for Renata Kensington online. The results were strange. There was a LinkedIn profile, but it was sparse. Just a professional photo, a vague title, and a handful of endorsements from people with generic names and empty profiles. There was a website for her consulting company, but it was all stock photos and buzzwords. No client list, no detailed service descriptions, no real information about what exactly she consulted on. Everything about her online presence felt thin, constructed. As if someone had built the minimum viable version of a professional identity without bothering to fill in the details that would make it feel real. I kept searching. I found a few mentions of her at industry events, always photographed with prominent executives, always described as well-connected, always somehow adjacent to power without clear evidence of what she actually did. And then I found something else, a society page photograph from a charity, from Gala 6 months ago. Renata Kensington standing next to Preston Fairweather, the CEO of Victor's company, both smiling at the camera. The caption read, "Preston Fairweather with his sister, Renata Kensington, at the annual Harbor Foundation Gala. Sister, the CEO's sister." I read the caption 3 times, trying to make sense of it. Fairweather, Kensington, different last names, but the caption explicitly said sister. This changed everything. If Renata was Preston Fairweather's sister, then Victor wasn't just having an affair. He was having an affair with someone who had direct access to the person who controlled his career, someone who could influence his trajectory in ways I couldn't begin to calculate. This wasn't just about attraction or chemistry or whatever people told themselves when they justified breaking their promises. This was strategic, calculated. This was Victor trading our marriage for access. I sat on the bathroom floor with my phone in my hands, staring at that photograph, and felt the last piece of my denial crumble into nothing. I needed to know for certain, not suspicions, not circumstantial evidence, not 3-second notification previews and business cards with cryptic messages. I needed proof. Monday morning, I called a number I'd found during my research, a private investigation firm that specialized in discreet matrimonial verification services. The woman who answered sounded kind, professional, like she'd had this conversation 1,000 times before. "I need to know if my husband is having an affair," I said. "We can help with that. Can you tell me a bit more about the situation?" I told her everything: the notification, the hotel, the business card, the CEO's sister, the months of distance and lies. She listened without interrupting, then said, "We can establish the facts within 2 weeks, sooner if the behavior is frequent. Our standard package includes photographic documentation and a detailed timeline." "Is that what you're looking for?" "Yes." "The retainer is $3,000. Is that feasible for you?" I thought about our joint savings account, about the money we'd accumulated over 8 years, about whether I had any right to spend $3,000 of shared money on investigating whether my husband was destroying our marriage. Then I thought about Victor at that hotel, lying about client dinners, texting heart emojis to a woman whose business card promised to change everything. "That's feasible," I said. I transferred the money that afternoon from our savings to my personal checking account, then to the investigation firm. $3,000, the cost of certainty. Victor didn't notice. He didn't look at our finances anymore. That had always been my job: paying bills, tracking spending, maintaining the budgets that kept our life running smoothly. He earned money. I managed it. That was our division of labor. It made it remarkably easy to redirect $3,000 without detection. The investigator's name was Spencer Corbett. He called me Wednesday evening after Victor had left for another late meeting. "I have preliminary findings," he said. "Are you somewhere you can talk?" I was in Miles's room, reading him the same bedtime story I'd read every night for 3 months because he liked the rhythm of it, the predictability. I stepped into the hallway and closed the door. "I can talk." "Your husband met with Renata Kensington 4 times this week. Monday lunch at a restaurant downtown, Tuesday evening at her apartment, Wednesday afternoon at the same hotel you identified. And tonight, he's currently at a bar in the waterfront district with her. They've been there for approximately 40 minutes. My vision went strange at the edges. "You have photographs?" "Yes. Would you like me to send them now, or would you prefer to review everything in person?" "Send them." The photos arrived while I was still standing in the hallway. Outside Miles's room, Victor and Renata at lunch sitting close, his hand covering hers on the table. Victor and Renata entering an apartment building, her hand on his arm. Victor and Renata at the hotel, kissing in the parking garage. The images were clear, high resolution, undeniable. I looked at them until they stopped feeling like photographs of my husband and started feeling like evidence, documentation, facts to be organized and filed rather than emotional devastation to be processed. "There's something else," Spencer said. I did some background on Renata Kensington. Her professional identity is inconsistent. The consulting company is registered, but shows no revenue. The LinkedIn endorsements are from profiles that all appear to have been created within the same 3-month period. I can't find any evidence of actual consulting work. "What about the connection to Preston Fairweather?" There was a pause. "That's the interesting part. I can't find any documentation of a familial relationship. No shared parents, no adoption records. Different cities of origin. The only thing connecting them is that single caption from the charity gala. So she's not his sister." Not that I can verify. It's possible there's a blended family situation I haven't uncovered yet, but as of now, I can't confirm any relationship beyond what's claimed in that photo caption. Then why would she say she is? That's an excellent question. I'd like to continue investigating that angle if you're willing to authorize additional hours. Do it. I went back into Miles's room. He was already asleep, the book still open on his chest where I'd left it. I closed the book carefully, turned off the light, and stood in the doorway for a long time, watching my son sleep. He looked so much like Victor. The same sharp chin, the same dark eyelashes, the same way of sleeping with one hand curled under his cheek. I wondered what I was supposed to tell him when his world fell apart, how I was supposed to explain that his father had chosen access to power over the family we'd built. How do you make a 5-year-old understand betrayal? You don't. You protect them from it as long as possible, and then you help them survive it when protection is no longer feasible. I was learning to think in terms of survival. Thursday morning, I withdrew $20,000 from our savings account in cash. This required going to the bank in person, requesting a manager, filling out paperwork about the source and intended use of the funds. I said I was paying a contractor for home renovations. Cash only. They didn't question it beyond the standard anti-fraud verification. The money went into a safety deposit box at a different bank, one Victor didn't know about. $20,000 in hundreds wrapped in bank envelopes, stored in a metal box in a vault downtown. Insurance. That's what I told myself. Not theft. I was entitled to half of everything we had. I was simply ensuring I had access to funds if things went wrong quickly. I was learning to prepare for worst-case scenarios. Spencer called again Friday with more findings. I tracked Renata's movements over the past month. She's meeting with multiple men who all work at your husband's company. Different levels, directors, VPs, one senior executive. The pattern is consistent. Lunch meetings that run long, evening drinks that extend into late dinner, sometimes hotels. She's not exclusive to your husband. She's sleeping with all of them? I can't definitively confirm physical relationships with all of them, but the pattern suggests romantic or sexual involvement with at least 3 others besides your husband. All of them are married, all of them have significant positions at the company. My chest felt tight. Why? I don't know yet. But I did find something else. Preston Fairweather has a sister. Her name is Tamsin Fairweather Latimer. She's married, lives in Seattle, works in tech. I found photographs of them together at family events going back 15 years. Renata Kensington is not in any of these family photographs. She's not his sister. Then why would a caption say she is? I spoke to the photographer who took the gala photo. He doesn't remember who provided the caption information. He says it likely came from the event organizers or the subjects themselves. So either Renata told them she was Fairweather's sister, or Fairweather did. Would the CEO lie about having a sister? I don't know, but I'm going to find out. I spent the weekend watching Victor move through our house like a stranger. He played with Miles with distracted affection. He helped with laundry while checking his phone every 3 minutes. He suggested we watch a movie together, then fell asleep 20 minutes in, his hand not reaching for mine even in sleep. Sunday evening, Jo Costa came for dinner. She brought a casserole and opinions about everything from Miles's table, manners to the way I'd arranged the living room furniture. Victor seemed energized by her presence in a way he never was by mine anymore. He laughed at her stories. He asked her advice about work situations. He paid attention. After dinner, while I was cleaning up the kitchen, I heard them talking in the living room. Jocasta's voice carried, the way it always did when she wanted to be overheard. "You look tired, sweetheart. Are you taking care of yourself?" "I'm fine, Mom. Just a lot going on at work." "Is Laurel being supportive?" A pause. "She's trying. Trying isn't the same as succeeding. I hope she understands how important this phase is for you. How much you need someone who gets it." "We're fine." "Are you? Because you don't seem fine. You seem stressed, distracted." "It's just work." "Is it? Or is there something else going on?" Another pause, longer this time. "Mom, you can talk to me, Victor. You know that. I only want what's best for you." I stopped. Washing dishes. I couldn't hear Victor's response. It was too quiet, too muffled by distance and intention, but I could hear Jocasta's reply clear as breaking glass. Then maybe it's time to think about what that looks like. What's best? Who's best? 'Cause you only get one life, sweetheart. You don't owe anyone a future just because they were there for the past. I stood very still, dish soap dripping from my hands into the sink. You don't owe anyone a future just because they were there for the past. Was she talking about me? Was she telling Victor to leave? Or was I being paranoid, reading intention into a generic statement that could mean anything? I didn't know, but the conversation stopped when I walked into the living room and both of them looked at me with expressions I couldn't quite read. Guilt, surprise, or just the normal adjustment of people shifting from one conversation to another. I was losing the ability to trust my own perception. Spencer called Monday, morning with information that made everything worse. I traced Renata's financial records, legally accessible public information only, he clarified. Her consulting company has no actual business transactions, no invoices, no contracts, no work product. But she has significant cash deposits every month from multiple sources that I can't trace to legitimate business activity. What does that mean? It means she's getting paid for something that isn't traditional consulting. And given the pattern of relationships she's maintaining with married executives at the same company, I have a theory, which is she's running a variation on a honey trap operation. She gets close to married men in positions of power, establishes romantic or sexual relationships, and then leverages those relationships for some kind of gain. Money, information, influence. I'm not sure yet. But the pattern is too consistent to be coincidental. And Victor thinks she's the CEO's sister. That's the hook, the promise of access. If these men believe she can influence Fairweather's decisions about promotions, projects, budgets, they'll do almost anything to stay in her favor, including destroying their marriages. Does Fairweather know? I don't know. That's what I'm trying to determine, but I have a contact who works in the company's legal department. I'm reaching out to see what they know. I sat down on the bathroom floor, the only place in the house where I could be certain Miles wouldn't overhear. What do I do with this information? That depends what you want to accomplish. If you want to save your marriage, you could confront your husband with the evidence and see if he's willing to end the affair. If you want to protect yourself legally, we should document everything thoroughly before you take any action. If you want to expose Renata, that's more complicated. It would require getting Fairweather involved, and I don't know how he'll react. What if I want all of those things? Then we need to be strategic about the order of operations. One wrong move could alert Renata or your husband and cause them to destroy evidence or change behavior. We need to think several steps ahead. Tell me what to do. Keep gathering information. Don't confront anyone yet. Let me confirm the Fairweather connection definitively. Then we'll plan the reveal for maximum impact and minimum risk to you. I agreed because I didn't know what else to do. Every instinct screamed at me to confront Victor immediately, to demand answers, to force the truth into the light. But instinct wasn't strategy. Instinct would give him time to prepare, to lie, to build counter-narratives that position me as paranoid or irrational. I needed to be smarter than my rage. I needed to be patient. So I went back to pretending. I made dinner. I helped Miles with homework. I asked Victor about his day and listened to vague non-answers with an expression of interested support. I was getting very good at lying. Tuesday evening, Victor came home and announced that he needed to talk to me. My stomach dropped. This was it. He was leaving. He'd chosen Renata and the promise of advancement, and now he was going to explain why this was somehow my fault, why I'd failed to be whatever he needed, why I should have seen this coming. We sat at the kitchen table after Miles was asleep. Victor looked nervous. Actually nervous in a way I hadn't seen since he'd proposed 8 years ago. I need you to understand something, he started, about my career, about what's happening right now. Okay. There are opportunities opening up that could change everything for us, for our family, but they require relationships, connections, Trust with people at very high levels. I waited. There's a woman, he continued. Her name is Renata. She's Preston Fairweather's sister. She's been helping me navigate company politics, giving me insight into who to know, how to position myself. She's been invaluable. The lie was so smooth, so practiced. I wondered how many times he'd rehearsed this. That sounds helpful, I said. It is, but I know how it might look from the outside. We have dinner sometimes, drinks, strategy sessions, and I know people talk. I know there might be rumors. What kind of rumors? He shifted uncomfortably. The kind that happen when a man spends time with a woman who isn't his wife, even when it's completely professional. Is it completely professional? Of course. He reached across the table to take my hand. Laurel, I love you. I love our family. Everything I'm doing is for us, to build a better future. But I need you to trust me. I need you to understand that sometimes building a career means relationships that might not look conventional, but are completely appropriate. I looked at our hands, his fingers wrapped around mine, warm, familiar, lying. I trust you, I said. His relief was visible. Good, because my mom mentioned you seemed stressed, worried. I don't want you to be worried. Everything's fine, better than fine. I just need you to have faith in me. I do. He squeezed my hand. I know this is hard. The hours, the travel, the time I'm not here. But it's temporary. Once I'm established at this level, things will get easier. We'll have more time, more stability. I just need you to be patient a little longer. How much longer? Not long. 6 months, maybe a year. Then everything will level out. A year. He was asking me to endure a year of this. A year of lies and late-night hotel stays and text messages with heart emojis to a woman who claimed to be someone she wasn't. Okay, I said. I can do that. He smiled. I knew I could count on you. After he went to bed, I sat in the kitchen and stared at the wall for 2 hours. He looked me in the eyes and lied, smoothly, confidently, with the kind of conviction that suggested he'd already rationalized every piece of his behavior into something defensible. This wasn't a man who was confused or conflicted. This wasn't a man who'd made a mistake he regretted. This was a man who'd made a choice and was managing me like one more obstacle to overcome. I called Spencer from the bathroom at 1 a.m. He knows I suspect, I said quietly. He just tried to get ahead of it, framed the relationship as professional networking. Did you confront him? No, I said I trusted him. Good, that buys us time. I have more information. Are you ready? Tell me. I spoke to my contact at the company. Renata Kensington is known in certain circles there. She's not officially affiliated with the company, but she shows up at events, always with different executives, always described as someone's +1 or business associate. My contact said there have been rumors for about 2 years that she's running some kind of operation, but nobody's reported it because the men involved won't admit to the relationships. What about Fairweather? Does he know she's claiming to be his sister? That's where it gets interesting. I managed to find someone who used to work on Fairweather's personal staff. They confirmed Tamsin is his only sibling. They'd never heard of Renata. When I showed them the gala photograph and caption, they were confused. They said Fairweather wasn't even at that event. He was in Tokyo for business. Someone else must have been identified as him in the photo. My mouth went dry. So the caption is completely fake? It appears so. Someone, probably Renata, arranged to be photographed at a high-profile event and had herself identified as Fairweather's sister, even though he wasn't there and they're not related. She used that one photograph to build an entire false identity. And all these men believe it. They want to believe it. That's the key. She's offering them something they desperately want: access to power, shortcuts to advancement. They're not looking too closely at the evidence because the story serves their ambitions, including Victor. Including Victor. I felt something cold settle in my chest. What happens when they find out she's not his sister? That depends how it comes out. If it's exposed publicly, they'll all claim they were duped, victims of a con. If it stays quiet, they might never admit they knew. Either way, their careers are likely finished. The CEO won't protect executives who engaged with someone fraudulently claiming to be his family member. That's a liability nightmare. So Victor's destroying our marriage for a promotion that's going to evaporate the moment anyone checks her story. Yes, that's the situation. I thought about this. About Victor coming home smelling like wine and expensive perfume, texting heart emojis to a woman who didn't exist, lying to my face about business dinners and professional networking. He was gambling everything, our marriage, his career, our family's stability, on a woman who was systematically defrauding him. And he had no idea. I want to know everyone she's involved with at the company, I said. Every executive, every relationship. I want names, dates, documentation. That will take time. I have time. How long? 2 weeks, maybe 3. Do it! I hung up and sat in the dark bathroom, listening to Victor snore in the bedroom down the hall, and felt something sharp and clear crystallize inside me. I wasn't going to warn him. I wasn't going to save him from this. He'd made his choice. He'd decided our marriage was worth less than the promise of advancement. He'd looked at 8 years of partnership and decided it was disposable. Fine. Let him discover what he traded it for. Let him learn exactly how much his ambition was worth. I would document everything. I would gather every piece of evidence. And when the truth finally emerged, when Renata's lies collapsed and took everyone connected to her down with them, I would be positioned to survive the fallout. Victor would not. This wasn't revenge. This was self-preservation. I was done protecting him from consequences. The next 2 weeks were an exercise in performance. I played the supportive wife flawlessly. I asked about his day. I laughed at his jokes. I maintained our household routines while he destroyed our marriage. Spencer sent updates every few days, photographs of Victor and Renata at restaurants, bars, hotels, timelines of their meetings, financial records showing cash deposits to Renata from sources Spencer was still tracking, evidence that at least 5 other married executives were in similar relationships with her. I filed everything methodically, printed copies, digital backups, cloud storage in an account Victor didn't know existed. I also started consulting a divorce attorney, not the kind advertised on billboards, the kind other attorneys whispered about, the one who specialized in high-asset divorces where one party was hiding things. Her name was Elodie Montrose, and she had a reputation for being frighteningly competent. "You've documented well," she said after reviewing the files I'd brought. "The infidelity is clear. The financial picture is stable. How much do you want?" "Half of everything, full custody of our son with supervised visitation only. And I want him to pay for his betrayal in every way that's legal." "All right, then we build an airtight case before filing. You don't confront him until we're ready. You don't tip him off that you're preparing. When we file, it needs to be overwhelming. He won't have time to hide assets or build counter-narratives. How long? 1 month, maybe 6 weeks if the financial discovery takes longer than expected. Can you maintain the performance that long?" I thought about lying next to Victor every night while he texted another woman, about smiling at Jocasta while she suggested I wasn't supportive enough, about watching Miles ask why Daddy was always busy and knowing Daddy was busy destroying our family. "I can do it," I said. "Good, because the moment he knows you know, he'll start protecting himself. Everything changes then. Your window for strategic advantage closes." "He won't know," she smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. "Then we're going to ruin him." I left her office feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Not happiness, not peace, but something close to power. The sense that I wasn't helpless, that I had agency, that I could respond to what was being done to me with something other than acceptance. I was learning I didn't have to be kind to people who were cruel to me. That same evening, Jocasta called. "I think we need to talk," she said. "Can you come over? Without Miles, just us." "What's this about?" "I'd rather discuss it in person." She lived 20 minutes away in a condo she'd bought after Victor's father died. I'd been there dozens of times, family dinners, holiday celebrations, the kinds of occasions where you pretended to enjoy each other's company for the sake of tradition. This felt different. I arranged for Miles to go to a friend's house. Then I drove to Jocasta's condo. She opened the door already talking. "I'm glad you came. We need to have an honest conversation about Victor's future." "Okay." She led me to her formal living room, the one with expensive furniture nobody ever sat on. We sat. "I'm going to be direct," she said, "because I care about you, and I think you deserve honesty. Victor is changing. He's becoming someone who needs a different kind of partner than what you're able to provide." I felt my spine go very straight. "What does that mean?" "It means he's operating at a level now that requires sophistication, political awareness, the ability to navigate complex professional relationships. And I'm not sure you're equipped for that world." "I see." "You're a good mother," she continued. "You keep a nice home. You've been a fine wife for the early stages of Victor's career, but now he needs someone who can elevate him, someone who understands the game he's playing. Someone like Renata?" Her eyes sharpened. "You know about Renata." "Victor told me. He said she's helping him with professional relationships." "She is. She's been invaluable to him, and she's exactly the kind of woman who can help him reach the heights he's capable of." "She's also sleeping with him." Jocasta didn't flinch. "Relationships at this level are complicated. I'm not saying Victor's behavior is ideal, but I am saying you need to consider what's best for everyone, including yourself. And what's best for everyone is for me to step aside so Victor can be with a woman who's fraudulently claiming to be the CEO's sister." That got a reaction. "What are you talking about?" "Renata Kensington is not Preston Fairweather's sister. His only sister is Tamsin Fairweather Latimer. She lives in Seattle. Renata is lying." Jocasta's face went through several expressions before settling on dismissive certainty. "That's ridiculous. Where did you hear that?" "From investigators who confirmed it with public records and people who actually know Fairweather." "You hired investigators?" Her voice went sharp. "To spy on your husband?" "Laurel, that's paranoid, controlling, exactly the kind of behavior that's been pushing Victor away." "Victor's being conned. They all are. Every executive she's involved with owes. She's running an operation to defraud married men who think sleeping with the CEO's sister will advance their careers." "That's conspiracy theory thinking." "I have documentation, photographs, financial records, timelines, proof that she's not related to Fairweather and that she's systematically targeting married executives." Jocasta stood up. "I don't want to hear this. You're spiraling. You're so desperate to hold on to Victor that you're inventing elaborate stories." "I'm trying to protect him from destroying his career." "By harassing the woman who's helping him? By manufacturing evidence against her? Can't you see how this looks?" I stood too. "How does it look?" "Like a jealous wife who can't accept that her husband has outgrown her." The words hung in the air like knives. "I see," I said quietly. "You want him to leave me." "I want him to be happy. I want him to have the life he deserves. And if that means making difficult choices about his marriage, then yes, I support him doing that. Even though the woman he's choosing is a fraud." "You keep saying that because it's true. And when it all comes out, when Fairweather finds out someone's been impersonating his sister, when the company investigates, when all of this explodes, Victor's career is over, along with everyone else she's manipulated." Jocasta's face went hard. "Get out!" "Jocasta, get out of my house! I don't need to listen to your paranoid delusions. You're clearly unwell, unstable, and I'm going to make sure Victor knows exactly how badly you've deteriorated." I left. I drove home in silence. I picked up Miles and made dinner and helped with homework and did all the things mothers do when their world is falling apart and they need to maintain normalcy for small people who don't deserve to be scared. That night, Victor called from another late meeting. "My mom told me about your conversation." "I'm sure she did." "She said you made wild accusations about Renata, that you're claiming she's some kind of con artist." "She is." Laurel, listen to yourself. You sound paranoid. I have proof. You have conspiracy theories. My mother thinks you might need professional help. Maybe she's right. Something cold flooded through me. Professional help. Therapy. Someone to talk to about why you're so anxious, so suspicious. This isn't healthy, Laurel. For you or for Miles. They were going to frame me as unstable. That was the play. If I kept insisting Renata was a fraud, they'd position me as paranoid, jealous, mentally unwell. They'd use my own warnings as evidence that I couldn't be trusted. This was strategic, coordinated. Jocasta and Victor working together to discredit me before I could discredit Renata. Maybe you're right, I said. Maybe I do need someone to talk to. I'm glad you see that. I'll help you find someone. We'll get you the support you need. Thank you. After he hung up, I called Elodie. They're trying to position me as mentally unstable, I said, to get ahead of anything I might reveal about the affair. That's predictable. Do you have any documented mental health history they could use? No. Good, we can flip this. If they claim you're unstable but can't produce evidence, it looks like they're trying to silence you. It actually strengthens your position. What do I do? Nothing. Don't see a therapist, they recommend. That gives them a witness they might be able to influence. Don't respond emotionally to their framing. Just keep documenting. We're close to being ready to file. How close? 2 weeks, 3 at most. I could survive 2 weeks. I could maintain the performance a little longer. Spencer called the next morning with the final pieces. I have confirmation. Renata Kensington is not related to Preston Fairweather in any way. She fabricated the relationship using a single photograph from a charity event where someone who wasn't Fairweather was misidentified in the caption. She's been using that photo to convince married executives she has access to the CEO. How many men total? 7, all married, all at director level or above. All convinced they're getting special treatment in exchange for the relationship. 3 have gotten promotions in the last year. 2 are being considered for VP positions. They all believe Renata influenced those decisions. Did she? No. The promotions appear legitimate based on performance. She's just taking credit for things that would have happened. Anyway, that's the elegant part of the con. She doesn't have to deliver actual access. She just has to be there when good things happen and let them assume she caused it. What's her endgame? Money, most likely. None of these men are paying her directly that I can find. But I'm tracking cash deposits to her accounts that suggest someone is. My guess is she's building leverage, gathering evidence of all these affairs. When she has enough, she'll blackmail them or sell the information to someone who will. How long before someone figures this out? That's the question. She's been running this for at least 2 years. Eventually someone will check her story. Or one of the wives will. Or Fairweather will hear about someone claiming to be his sister. When that happens, everything collapses. And I want to be ready when it does. You will be. I have everything documented, testimony from reliable sources, financial records, the fraudulent photo, everything you need to show your husband was systematically deceived. Will that help him? Legally? Spencer paused. Help him how? If the company investigates, if they find out about the affairs, will claiming he was conned protect him? Maybe, but probably not. The company won't care about the details. They'll care that he had an inappropriate relationship with someone fraudulently claiming to be connected to leadership. That's a massive liability. They'll terminate everyone involved to contain the risk. Good. Good? He made his choice, let him live with the consequences. Spencer was quiet for a moment. That's a hard position. It's a realistic one. I tried to warn him. His mother tried to frame me as unstable for warning him. They've chosen to believe Renata's lies. I'm not responsible for protecting them from what happens next. Understood. I'll have the final report ready in 48 hours. I spent the next 2 days in a strange kind of calm. Everything was in motion now. The documentation was complete. The divorce filing was being prepared. The truth about Renata was on the verge of exposure. I just had to wait. Victor came home Thursday evening in a spectacularly good mood. Big news, he announced. I'm being considered for VP of Strategic Operations. It's not official yet, but Preston wants to meet with me next week. This is it, Laurel. This is what we've been working toward. I felt nothing. That's wonderful. Renata set it up. She talked to her brother. He caught himself. To Preston. She vouched for me. This is happening because of her connections. I'm so proud of you. He kissed me. Actually kissed me with something that felt almost like affection. I know I've been absent. I know it's been hard, but this makes it worth it, right? Everything we've sacrificed. Everything I'd sacrificed, he meant. Everything he'd demanded while giving nothing back. Of course, I said. Once I'm VP, things will stabilize, we'll take a vacation, spend real time together. I'll be more present with Miles. That sounds nice. It was a lie. All of it. He had no intention of being more present. The VP position wouldn't stabilize anything. It would expand his obligations, justify more late meetings, create new excuses for absence. But I smiled and nodded because that's what the performance required. Friday morning, Elodie called. We're ready to file. Everything is in order. I need your final authorization. I looked around our house, the home we'd built together, the life we'd accumulated. 8 years of mornings and dinners and negotiated decisions about what mattered. Do it, I said. He'll be served at his office Monday morning. I recommend you and Miles not be at the house when he gets home Monday evening. Where should we be? Somewhere safe, somewhere he can't show up and control the narrative. Do you have family nearby? I didn't. My parents had died in a car accident 6 years ago. I had a sister 3, states away, but we weren't close. I'll find a place. Good. Also, I'm adding a clause about supervised visitation only. Given the affair and the professional fraud he's entangled in, I think we can make a case that his judgment is impaired. Will that work? In the short term, yes. Long term, it depends how everything else unfolds. But it gives us leverage. Leverage. That word again. The thing I'd been building for weeks. The thing that would determine how much of this I survived. File it, I said. Monday morning, I dropped Miles at kindergarten and drove to a hotel 30 minutes away. I checked in under my name only, paid cash for 3 nights, and sat in the generic room staring at my phone. At 10:47 a.m., Elodie texted, served, expect contact soon. At 11:23 a.m., Victor called. I didn't answer. He called 6 more times. I let them all go to voicemail. At 2:14 p.m., he started texting. Victor. What the fuck is this, Victor? We need to talk right now. Victor. Where are you, Victor? Where is Miles? Victor. You can't just leave with my son. Victor, call me back. Victor, Laurel. I turned my phone off and lay on the hotel bed, staring at the ceiling. It was done. The performance was over. The truth was out. Now I just had to wait for everything to fall apart. Miles came home from kindergarten to a hotel room instead of his house. I'd picked him up myself, told him we were having an adventure, that we'd be staying somewhere fun for a few days. He accepted this with the kind of trust children have before they learn adults lie. Where's Daddy? He asked while jumping on the hotel bed. Daddy's working. Always working, Miles said. It wasn't a complaint, just an observation, a statement of fact about the world as he understood it. I ordered room service for dinner, let Miles watch more TV than usual. Tried to maintain something close to normalcy while my phone, now turned back on, exploded with messages. Victor had called 17 times, left 9 voicemails, sent 43 texts ranging from anger to confusion to what sounded like panic. Jocasta had called 12 times. Her voicemails were venomous. My attorney had sent a single message. Don't respond to anything. Let them panic. We'll schedule a mediation session when they calm down. Asterisk. I didn't respond to anything. Tuesday morning, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Mrs. Ashcroft? A man's voice, calm, professional. Yes? This is Malcolm Southwell from Fairweather Industries Legal Department. I need to speak with you about your husband's employment status. Would you be available to come to our offices this afternoon? My chest went tight. What is this regarding? I'd prefer to discuss that in person. Would 2 p.m. work for you? Yes, I can do that. I arranged for Miles to spend the afternoon with a friend from school, then drove to Fairweather Industries headquarters. The legal department was on the 16th floor. Malcolm Southwell was waiting in a conference room with another man who introduced himself as Curtis Hargreaves, head of internal investigations. Thank you for coming, Malcolm said. We're conducting an investigation into relationships between company executives and an individual named Renata Kensington. We understand your husband is one of the people involved with her. I sat very still. I'm aware of the relationship. We need to understand the extent of it. What your husband has told you, what you know about Ms. Kensington's claims regarding her connection to Preston Fairweather. She claims to be his sister. She's not. Curtis leaned forward. How do you know that? I hired investigators after discovering the affair. They confirmed Preston Fairweather's only sibling is Tamsin Fairweather Latimer. Renata fabricated the relationship using a fraudulent photo caption from a charity event. The two men exchanged looks. Do you have documentation of this? Malcolm asked. I have extensive documentation. My attorney has it. We'd like to see it. This investigation is significant. Multiple executives are involved. If Ms. Kensington has been fraudulently representing herself as family to the CEO, that's grounds for immediate termination of anyone who engaged with her professionally or personally. My husband is being considered for a VP position, I said. He believes Renata arranged it, that she influenced the CEO on his behalf. Curtis made a note. The VP position is legitimate. It was offered based on merit before this investigation began, but it will be rescinded if your husband's relationship with Ms. Kensington violated company policy. Which it did. Yes, which it did. Malcolm leaned back. Mrs. Ashcroft, I'm going to be frank with you. This is going to destroy careers, possibly including your husband's. The company cannot tolerate executives who engaged with someone fraudulently claiming to be the CEO's family member, regardless of whether they knew she was lying. The liability risk is too severe. I understand. Your husband will be terminated. So will the others. There will likely be legal action to recover any compensation they received during the period they were involved with Ms. Kensington. This will be public. It will be destructive. I felt a strange sense of calm. What do you need from me? Everything your investigators found, names, dates, documentation of her claims, evidence of the fabricated relationship. We need to build an airtight case before we confront any of the executives involved. My attorney will send everything this afternoon. Thank you. And Mrs. Ashcroft, I'm sorry, I know this is difficult. Was it? I wasn't sure. It felt like watching a building collapse that I'd already evacuated. Destructive, yes, but distant. Happening to people who'd made choices I'd had no part in. I'll survive, I said. Victor called 47 times that evening. I answered on the 48th call. Laurel, what did you do? His voice was ragged, desperate. The company called me in. They're investigating Renata. They asked about our relationship. What did you tell them? The truth. What truth? There's nothing to tell. It was professional networking. Victor, stop. I know everything. I have photographs of you at hotels with her. Text messages, documentation of every meeting. I gave it all to the company's legal team. Silence then. You destroyed my career. No, you destroyed your career when you decided to have an affair with a woman fraudulently claiming to be the CEO's sister. I just documented it. She is his sister. She's not. His only sister is Tamsin Fairweather Latimer. Renata's running a con. She's been sleeping with 7 different married executives, all of whom think they're getting special access to Fairweather. It's all fake. The thing is a lie. More silence, longer this time. Then quietly, that can't be true. It is. And the company is going to terminate everyone involved. Your VP position is gone. Your current position is probably gone. You traded our marriage for access that never existed. Laurel! His voice cracked. Please, we can fix this. I'll end things with Renata. I'll do whatever you want. Just tell the company you were wrong, that you misunderstood. I wasn't wrong. I have proof. Then say the proof was fabricated. Say your investigators lied. Say anything. Please. My career is over if you don't. I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No vindication. Just a strange, hollow clarity. Your career is over either way. The company has independent confirmation now. They're not relying on my evidence. They're building their own case. And when they expose Renata, everyone connected to her goes down too. Then what was the point? His voice turned sharp, angry. What was the point of destroying everything? If it's happening anyway, why did you have to be the one to start it? Because I needed you to know that I knew, that I chose to walk away, that I didn't just accept being erased from your life while you chased something that didn't exist. I never meant to erase you. Yes, you did. You just wanted me to accept it quietly, to smile and be supportive while you dismantled our marriage. I'm not doing that. What about Miles? What about our son? What about him? You barely see him now. Supervised visitation won't change much. Supervised? He made a sound like something breaking. You're taking my son. No, you gave him up when you chose your career over your family. I'm just making it official. I hung up. He called back immediately. I blocked his number. Jocasta called from her number. I blocked her too. Elodie called an hour later. The company is moving quickly. They're terminating 7 executives tomorrow morning. Victor's name is on the list. They're also filing legal claims to recover compensation these men received while engaged in the fraudulent relationship. How much? For Victor, approximately $80,000 in bonuses and salary increases he received after his promotion. The company is claiming those were influenced by his relationship with someone fraudulently representing herself as Fairweather's family member. Can they do that? It's complicated, but they'll bury him in legal fees trying. Even if they don't win, he'll be financially destroyed defending himself. And Renata? They're pursuing criminal charges, fraud, identity theft, possibly blackmail once they determine whether she was planning to extort these men. She'll likely face serious jail time. I thought about this, about Renata Kensington, whoever she really was, sitting in a cell somewhere because she'd built an empire of lies that finally collapsed. I felt no sympathy. What happens next? I asked. We proceed with the divorce. Given his termination and the criminal investigation into his professional conduct, I can argue for full custody and minimal visitation. He'll fight it, but he's fighting from a catastrophically weak position. How long? 3 months, maybe 6, but you'll have primary custody throughout. He won't be able to overturn that. Miles was watching cartoons in the hotel room, building a complicated structure with hotel toiletries. He looked happy, safe, unaware that his world had just split in half. I need to tell him, I said. Tell him what? That his father isn't coming home. Elodie's voice went gentle. Take your time. There's no rush. Let things settle first. It's already settled. Victor made his choice. Now Miles has to live with the consequences. Kids are resilient, she said, but she didn't sound convinced. After we hung up, I sat with Miles and told him we were going to have some changes, that Daddy would be living somewhere else for a while, that we'd see him sometimes, but not every day. He looked at me with those serious eyes that were so much like Victor's and asked, Is it because he's always working? Something like that, baby. Oh, he went back to his toiletry structure. Can we stay at the hotel? I like room service. For a few more days, then we'll go home. Just us? Just us. Okay. He accepted this like he accepted everything, with the adaptability of someone who hadn't yet learned to resist change. I wished I still had that ability. The story broke 3 days later. Not in traditional news, in the industry publications and business blogs that track executive movements and corporate scandals. The headlines varied, but the content was consistent. 7 executives terminated from Fairweather Industries. Following investigation into fraudulent relationship claims. Woman arrested for fraud after falsely claiming to be CEO's sister. Multiple married executives implicated in elaborate corporate deception, a scheme. Victor's name was in most of the articles, his position, his salary. The fact that he'd been under consideration for VP before the investigation exposed his relationship with Renata Kensington, who had systematically targeted married executives by fraudulently claiming familial connection to company leadership. The articles were careful, professional. They didn't say affair explicitly, but they didn't have to. The language made it clear what had happened. My phone rang constantly. Friends who'd disappeared during Victor's busy phase suddenly had questions. His colleagues wanted to know if I'd known. Reporters wanted comments. I ignored all of them. Jocasta somehow got through. She'd called from a new number I hadn't blocked yet. "This is your fault," she said, instead of hello. "You destroyed him. You destroyed everything." "He destroyed himself. You could have protected him. You could have kept this quiet. Instead, you went to the company. You gave them evidence. You made sure everyone would know. I told the truth. That's all I did." "The truth?" Her voice went shrill. "The truth is that you were never good enough for him. You were never going to be able to support his ambitions. That's why he looked elsewhere. That's why he needed someone like Renata. Renata is a criminal. She's being charged with fraud. Because you reported her. You couldn't just let Victor have this opportunity." "The opportunity didn't exist, Jocasta. It was fake. All of it. She lied about being Fairweather's sister. She lied about having influence. She conned Victor and 6 other men who were stupid enough to believe sleeping with someone connected would advance their careers." "You're lying!" "I have documentation. The company has documentation. Fairweather himself confirmed he has no sister named Renata. It's over. Victor chose to believe a lie, and now he's facing the consequences. He's facing them because you made sure he would. You could have warned him privately. You could have helped him end things quietly before it became public. I tried to warn him. He called me paranoid. You called me unstable. Both of you chose to believe Renata over me. Now you get to live with that choice." She was crying now. "He's my son, my only child, and you've ruined him." "He ruined himself. I'm just refusing to go down with him." I hung up and blocked that number too. The divorce proceedings were surprisingly quick. Victor tried to fight for custody. His attorney argued that I'd destroyed his career out of spite, that I was vindictive and unstable, that Miles needed his father. Elodie destroyed those arguments methodically. She presented evidence of his affair, documentation of his lies, testimony about how he'd prioritize professional advancement over family, the fact that he was currently unemployed, facing legal claims from his former employer, and under investigation for professional misconduct. The judge granted me full physical custody with supervised visitation every other weekend. Victor collapsed in the courtroom. I felt nothing. The house sold quickly. I took my half of the proceeds, significantly more than half actually, because Victor needed to liquidate assets to pay his legal fees. I found a smaller place closer to Miles's school. 2 bedrooms, a yard, space for the life we were building without Victor. Miles adjusted. Children are good at that. He stopped asking when Daddy was coming home and started treating visitation like any other routine. Victor showed up to those visits looking progressively more destroyed. He lost weight. His hair was going gray. He had the haunted look of someone who lost everything and couldn't understand how it had happened. During one pickup, he tried to talk to me. "Laurel, I'm sorry. I'm so fucking sorry. I know I destroyed everything. I know I can't fix it. But please, please don't keep punishing me." I looked at him. This man I'd loved. This man I'd built a life with. This stranger who'd traded it all for something that never existed. I'm not punishing you, I said. I'm just not protecting you anymore. There's a difference. What does that mean? It means I spent years making sure your life ran smoothly, making sure you looked good, supporting your career, managing everything so you could focus on advancement. And you threw it away. You gambled our marriage on a fraud, and you lost. That's not punishment. That's consequence. I was trying to build a better future for us. No, you were trying to build a better future for yourself, and you didn't care who you had to step on to get there. He started crying. Actual tears running down his face while our son waited in the car with his overnight bag. I felt nothing. Please, he whispered. I have nothing left. No job, no career, no family, no future. The legal fees are destroying me. I'm going to lose everything. You already lost everything. You're just realizing it now. Laurel, it's time for you to go. Miles is waiting. He went, defeated, destroyed, exactly as he deserved. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I got a call from Malcolm Southwell. I wanted to let you know Renata Kensington took a plea deal. She's pleading guilty to fraud and identity theft. She'll serve 18 months in minimum security, followed by probation. Only 18 months? She cooperated, gave up information about her operation. Apparently this wasn't her first time running this kind of scheme. She'd done it at 3 other companies before Fairweather Industries. And all those men believed her? Ambitious people believe what serves their ambitions. She understood that. What about Victor? His legal case with the company was settled. He agreed to repay $40,000 of the $80,000 they were claiming. The rest was negotiated down. He's clear from criminal charges. Nobody's pursuing that angle since he was technically a victim of fraud. That's generous. It's practical. The company wants this closed. Your ex-husband doesn't have the resources to fight them, and he's not a threat to anyone anymore. Good. Malcolm paused. I also wanted to say, what you did took courage. Coming forward with the evidence. Most people protect their spouses even when they shouldn't. I wasn't protecting myself. That's different than protecting him. It is, and it matters. After we hung up, I sat in my new kitchen in my new house and thought about Victor. About where he was now, what he was doing, whether he'd learned anything or whether he was just bitter about the consequences of his choices. I didn't care enough to find out. Miles was in the backyard playing with a neighbor kid. He'd made friends in our new neighborhood, started doing well in school, stopped asking difficult questions about why things had changed. He was thriving. So was I. I'd gone back to work, found a position at a small consulting firm that valued competence over office politics, made friends with colleagues who didn't disappear when life got complicated. Built a life that belonged entirely to me. I wasn't happy. Not in the uncomplicated way happiness is supposed to look, but I was stable, safe, in control of my own trajectory. That was enough. Jocasta tried to reach out once more, 3 months after the divorce. She sent a letter, handwritten, 6 pages of explanations and justifications and requests for reconciliation. She was sorry for doubting me, sorry for believing Renata's lies, sorry for pushing Victor towards something that destroyed him. She understood now that I'd been right, that I'd tried to warn them, that she'd chosen wrong. Could I forgive her? Could we rebuild? For Miles's sake, if nothing else. He deserved to know his grandmother. I read the letter twice. Then I put it in the shredder and took Miles to the park. He deserved better than people who'd prioritize ambition over integrity. Better than adults who'd only value him when it served their purposes. He deserved a mother who would protect him from people who couldn't be trusted. Even if one of those people was his grandmother. Especially then. The final piece came almost a year after everything fell apart. I was picking up Miles from school when I saw Victor waiting near the parking lot. He'd lost more weight. His clothes didn't fit right. He had the appearance of someone who'd stopped caring about appearances. "Can we talk?" he asked when I approached. "No, please, just 5 minutes. I have nothing to say to you." "Then just listen." "Please." Miles was still inside, getting his backpack from his cubby. I had maybe 3 minutes before he came out. What do you want? I got a job, Victor said. Nothing like before. Entry level. Different industry. But it's something. I'm rebuilding. Good for you. I wanted you to know because I'm going to request revised custody. Terms. I'm stable now. I have income. I want more time with Miles. I felt something cold settle in my chest. No. You can't keep him from me forever. I can keep him from you as long as the court agrees supervised visitation is appropriate, which they do because you destroyed your life chasing a fraud and showed catastrophically poor judgment. That was a year ago. I'm different now. Are you? Or are you just trying to reclaim pieces of the life you threw away? I'm trying to be a father to my son. You should have thought about that before you decided your career mattered more than your family. He stepped closer. I know I failed. I know I destroyed everything. But Miles is my son too. He deserves to have a father. He has a father. One who shows up every other weekend for 4 supervised hours and then disappears. That's the father you chose to be. That's the relationship you built. Laurel, please. Miles came out of the school. He saw Victor, and his face went through several expressions: surprise, uncertainty, careful neutrality. Hi, Daddy. Hey, buddy, how was school? Good, we did science. That's great. Miles looked at me. Are we going home? Yes, baby, get in the car. He went without argument, without asking Victor to come with us, without suggesting we should spend time together. He'd learned. Children learn quickly when adults teach them the wrong lessons. Victor watched his son walk away from him, and something broke in his face. This is what you wanted, isn't it? He said quietly. For me to lose everything. For Miles to forget I exist. I didn't want any of this. You created it. You chose Renata over us. You chose potential advancement over actual family. These are your consequences. When does it end? When do I get to stop paying for one mistake? It wasn't one mistake. It was months of deliberate choices, lies, betrayals, prioritizing your ambition over everyone who loved you, and you only regret it because it didn't work out the way you planned. That's not true. It is. If Renata had actually been Fairweather's sister, if you'd gotten the VP position, if none of this had been exposed, you'd still be with her. You'd still be lying to me. You'd still be destroying our marriage. The only thing you regret is getting caught. He opened his mouth, closed it. No argument came. Because I was right. I need to go, I said. Miles is waiting. Can I see him this weekend? It's my scheduled visitation. If you show up at the agreed time with the agreed supervisor, yes. Laurel? Stop saying my name like it's a plea for mercy. I'm not your second chance. I'm not your path back to respectability. I'm just someone who survived what you did and moved on. I got in the car and drove away. In the rearview mirror, I watched Victor standing in the school parking lot, alone, exactly as he deserved to be. Miles was quiet in the back seat. Is Daddy sad? He asked after a few minutes. Yes. Why? How do you explain this to a child? How do you say that his father is sad because he destroyed his own life chasing something that didn't exist? That he gambled everything on a lie and lost? You don't. You say, because things didn't work out the way he hoped. Oh. Miles went back to looking out the window then. Are you sad? No, baby. I'm not sad. Good. And that was the truth. I wasn't sad. I wasn't angry anymore either. I'd moved past rage into something colder and more permanent. I'd learned that some betrayals don't deserve forgiveness, that some people don't deserve second chances, that survival sometimes means becoming someone who won't accept less than they deserve, even if that makes them difficult, unforgiving, hard. I'd learned that anger is information. It tells you when boundaries have been crossed, when you're being asked to accept the unacceptable, when someone is trying to rewrite history to excuse their behavior. And I'd learned that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is refuse to participate in someone else's redemption narrative. Victor wanted me to forgive him, to help him rebuild, to facilitate his relationship with our son so he could feel less guilty about destroying our family. I refused, not because I was vindictive, but because I'd spent years managing his life, supporting his ambitions, smoothing his path, and he'd repaid that by choosing his career over his family. I was done managing his emotional landscape. He'd have to learn to navigate consequence on his own. That night, after Miles was asleep, I sat in my kitchen with a cup of tea and thought about everything that had happened. A year ago, I'd been married to a man I thought I knew, living a life I thought was stable, planning a future that felt secure. Now I was divorced, single parent, living in a different house, building a completely different kind of life. Some people would call that tragic. I called it necessary. Because the alternative, staying married to someone who saw me as disposable, accepting being gradually erased, teaching my son that this is what love looks like, that would have been the real tragedy. I'd chosen survival instead, and survival looked like this: quiet evenings in a house that belonged to me, a son who felt safe, a life built on honest foundations instead of the crumbling ruins of someone else's ambition. It looked like learning that losing someone who never valued you isn't actually loss, it's liberation. And I was finally, fully, dangerously free.